Am I the butthole for not allowing my mother-in-law to sign my daughter up for a purity ball at her church? I posted here before about my mother-in-law, and now I'm back with another issue. My daughter Tess, 9 female, has gone to church with mother-in-law periodically since she was little. I don't love that, as I'm not a religious person and my mother-in-law is an aggressive Baptist, but my husband thinks it's a good bonding activity and so I don't complain. Plus, it gives us adult time on Sundays. Well, because of the virus, services have gone online. Tess still goes over to mother-in-law's place and helps her set up the laptop for them to watch together. She also zooms into a girls' Sunday school group after the service. Last week, Tess came home chattering about the ball, and how mother-in-law is going to take her shopping at a fancy shopping center in our town. I thought she was playing an imagination game, so I just nodded along. Then, my husband chimed in to remind Tess that the budget is $50. I was super confused and asked him what was up. He gave me kind of a shady look and said that the girls' Sunday school class was having a dance this June. I asked him how COVID would affect that, and he didn't know. My spider senses were tingling, so I pulled him aside to the back porch. Eventually I gathered that he was talking about an annual purity ball for the 10 to 14-year-old girls. He said my sil had done it in middle school and it was just a fun thing and not a big deal. I started blowing my top, to be honest, and I informed him that purity ideals are bad for girls. I thought we were on the same page about those topics, but he thinks it's just a fun thing for girls to do and get dressed up. My husband claims that he wasn't trying to hide it from me and that he thought I knew, given how popular the purity ball is at their church. I put my foot down and texted mother-in-law to ask if she'd sign Tess up. She said not yet, and I made clear I wouldn't allow it. Period. Ever. Mother-in-law sent back her usual stuff implying that I'm a hoe who led her son down a bad road and I'm an unfit mother. Am I the butthole for forbidding the purity ball? The only reason I could be the butthole is I unilaterally decided against my husband's input, and I think Tess will be disappointed. NTA purity balls are creepy and weird. They also give people long-lasting issues around sex and intimacy and in general sexualize young girls for no reason. Mother-in-law and husband had no right to promise her this without talking to you about it first. Unfortunately, she's already excited about the shopping and dressing up, so that's a whole other subject to broach. Yes, let's send our daughter somewhere where she's given a rose and told that represents her and then has the petals ripped off and is told that's what sex does to her value. That won't give her any lifelong hang-ups about sex. OMG, is that what actually happens? Yep, and I actually went to one of the more progressive churches where we were allowed to have youth group with the boys. I was also told that every time you have sex with leaves an echo, and when you stand up to get married and take your husband's hand, all those echoes stand up with you. And do you want a chain of men holding your hand when you are getting married? If it makes you feel any worse, they actually do that in public schools' abstinence-only programs, too. Also the tape thing where everyone touches a piece of tape or crumples up a piece of paper and then the tape is all gross and the paper can never be smooth again. Your tax dollars at work. Vote in school board elections, people. See, that makes me very sad. Church, it's, unfortunately, to be expected, but a public institution shouldn't be pushing that dogma. In my Bible Belt middle school, they kept emphasizing all these metaphors about how men wouldn't want you if you had sex and said it wasn't a religion thing. But then my friend asked how lesbian sex works and what to do if you don't care about men having sex with you, and they freaked out and gave her detention. Good times. I can only imagine the looks on their faces. Your friend is awesome. I was so lucky. My Unitarian Church youth group had sex ed. It was way more inclusive than the school's class. We learned about all of the different ways one can express physical love and how to put condoms on bananas. Unitarians have evidence-based attitudes toward sex. It's surprising how many other religions push misogynistic attitudes as soon as girls approach puberty. Unitarians are basically just the chill Christians, seemingly even in, like, the 1800s. Yep, in middle school health class we were told that girls are locks and boys are keys, and nobody wants a lock that can be opened by more than one key. That's a bad lock. I've heard that from hypocritical guys, saying a key that can open many locks is a master key. In those situations you can at least turn it back on them and say a pencil sharpener that can sharpen many pencils is great. A pencil that's been sharpened too many times. Not so much. Take my poor woman's gold medal. WTF? That's just dumb. There are all kinds of situations in which I'd want more than one key to open a lock. I mean, I've heard a lot of really dumb crap. I used to study adolescent sex education, but this one is one of the dumbest. I live in Poland and you have classes called religious education since kindergarten. You can only submit a resignation once you turn 18, otherwise attending those classes is a default. A lot of non-religious parents still make their kids attend, as it's a hassle if they don't, because you have to submit a resignation and very often these classes are in the middle of the day. So the kid would be hanging out alone for like 3 hours per week, without anything else to do. I don't know about sex ed, because school was a long time ago, but from I've heard, it's virtually non-existent or conducted by nuns. Why? Well, I mean, having people who haven't had sex and will never have sex are obviously the best people to teach all about healthy and normal sexual relationships. I've never been trained in neurosurgery and have no medical background whatsoever, but if one of those nuns or priests needs a brain operation, my door is wide open. To be fair, being a nun doesn't mean they've never had sex. You're allowed to become a nun if you're a convert. But it's still a poor choice. Abstinence-only education is such bullcrap and still pisses me off. I legitimately got a better sex ed from reading fanfiction and Harlequin romance novels than the day-long summit my school took us to. The bar should not be that low, damn it. Yeah, my public school, Bible Belt, USA, had abstinence-only sex ed and a speaker that came in to teach us girls that no one wants used shoes and that's basically what we'd be doing to our husbands if we had sex before marriage. Even worse, the speaker who came to the year below me taught those kids that girls would only ever text or talk to a guy first if they have daddy issues. Plus that's a lie, tons of people buy used shoes. They clearly missed the plot of Holes. See, I have always wondered. The ultra-conservatives keep pushing the no sex before marriage and have been for the better part of 2 centuries or more, yet we still have bastards or teen pregnancy or shotgun weddings. So my ultimate question is, how long are they going to try this failed miserly experiment? Like, dude, this hasn't worked in ever, so at this point don't they think we should actually do something practical about this subject? Edit. So it was pointed out that it must have just been a very big fad in the 30s 70s that my statement rings more true. But I still want to know, doesn't matter 2,000 years or 70 years, the whole absence before marriage isn't really work either way. How long are they going to try this failed miserly experiment? Till Jesus comes back. They are 2,000 years in at this point, sunk cost fallacy and all. I'm a genealogist, if you're actually curious about this. Engagement used to be a much bigger deal than it is now. Most engaged couples were generally sexually active in the US and Europe, and didn't marry until pregnancy occurred. It was a way to be sure both people were fertile. But if you're researching a family line in Tennessee in the 1820s, as an example, and don't have a marriage date, you estimate it as 6 to 7 months before the oldest child's birth. Actual marriage age has varied greatly by time and place, according to economic realities and social class. Various methods to prevent or terminate pregnancy have been used, involving varied levels of risk. I've done the crumpled up piece of paper thing in public school as a kid, but it was to teach the lasting effects of bullying, which I appreciated. It was, to me, a valuable reminder of how much even just words can have a lasting, irreparable, impact on someone. Sucks that people use such a valuable teaching tool to push their own agenda on impressionable kids. I am so glad we didn't have anything close to that when we learned sex ed. They did act as if you didn't use a condom once, you were probably going to end up with AIDS, which isn't exactly fun to think about either. But at least there's some truth to that. If anyone ever did this to my daughter, I would blow up so hard, people in the other side of the world would be able to see the mushroom cloud. That's the one I got as a child. Didn't make me uncomfortable with my body or sexuality at all. Jesus. I basically went to Catholic school in the rural Midwest and they never did anything like that. Catholics seem to leave virgin shaming to parents rather than making it an actual event. Though it is most definitely a thing for tons of Catholic families. The more fundamental conservative Catholic families do it, the more progressive/liberal Catholic families not so much. One of my friends got pregnant in high school, we're both Catholic but went to public school, and her boyfriend was crazy and controlling. He tried to forbid her from telling her parents and demanded she move in with him and his family. She told him no, broke up with him and told her parents. Her parents' response was, "Well, we told you not to let crazy stick his dick in you. Whatever you choose, we will support you." She terminated and broke up with him. When she got married a few years ago, they never mentioned it to her husband, she told him, because it's in the past. We beat buttholes to use it to humiliate her. I spent 2 years in Dublin, Ireland, finishing up my degree and doing my professional qualifications. I saw loads of teenage moms there, and there was a poll that stated a third of children born in Limerick were born out of wedlock. I was trying to make sense of it when I remembered that abortion wasn't legal in Ireland. It's more of an evangelical Christian thing, or in my experience that's the church I grew up in and saw these sorts of things. Luckily I was poor and my mom was a single mom, so no dad equals no purity ball. Doesn't mean the indoctrination alone didn't take a toll on my own views of sex/sexuality/intimacy. NTA. Those things can get very creepy, very quickly. It's all dressed up to look harmless, but there's something about dressing little girls up in nice dresses that are frequently awfully reminiscent of wedding dresses, telling them that their virginity is the most valuable and important thing about them, and frequently promising their virginity to their fathers until their wedding day. That gets very squeaky, very quickly. This kind of crap needs to stop. It's not harmless dress up for fun. It's a mind game and abusive misogyny hidden behind harmless-looking sparkles. They promise to their dads in white dresses? What the F? That is next-level creepy. Yes, usually they sign a purity pledge and then are given a ring to wear on their ring finger to remind them of their promise to stay pure until marriage. There's a lot of emphasis on basically staying pure until your dad gives you away to someone he deems worthy of taking your virginity in a Christ-like way. It is truly deranged. What the F? It literally is the sexualization of children. This is so disgusting. Yeah, there's a scene in Shameless, Us, with a purity ball, and to be honest, it's not so far off even for a show that is as exaggerated as that one. Have you seen the purity ball scene from the second Borat film? Holy cow. Lol, cringiest thing I've ever seen in my life, and that's all before the traditional dance the daughter performs. Haha, edit, that's a cotillion in the film. See comment below for distinction. Edit 2, I know nothing of these ways. See below lol. Oh. There's also quite a few good documentaries on the subject. I've seen The Virgin Daughters and it looks like it's available on YouTube too. Check out the Dollops podcast about purity balls. I read an interview with a woman once who was mortified when she got married, because the day after everyone at her church knew she lost her virginity that night. Apart from all that is already mentioned, and that's messed up, don't forget you're basically telling the whole world I had sex for the first time last night. Yeah, I hear this from a lot of women. So uncomfortable to be listening to aunts and uncles jeer and joke about your wedding night. So one of my guilty pleasures are those Duggar shows, you know. It started as 17 kids and counting. Was it 16? I don't know, it doesn't matter. 18 kids, 19 kids, etc., and now counting on. And one thing that always squicks me out about the wedding episodes is that, because they don't even kiss before marriage, everyone's all, oh, they're going to kiss. And do other stuff later, oh. And who the F wants that to be the focus of their wedding? I want my wedding guests to ooh and ah over my dress, enjoy the food, drink to their heart's delight and dance their asses off, but I do not need people joking about what we're about to do for the first time after the reception. Gross. And none of the church's young boys are told anything even close to the same message. In fact, the boys are basically told that this only applies to girls and they should hold girls accountable to that message and only marry a virgin. It actually causes a lot of date rape culture too, because the boys are taught to view girls that have had sex or dress provocatively as less than and asking for it. I've heard phrases such as "you can't toss a steak in front of a dog and expect them not to eat it," thrown about often in places like that. Oh yeah, these things are generally father-daughter dances that are super uncomfortable on several levels. I cannot fathom who thinks this is a good idea. It's making my skin crawl. I cannot fathom who thinks this is a good idea. It's making my skin crawl. Imagine someone whose skin doesn't crawl when they hear this. There's your answer. I'm not familiar with these things and I need brain bleach. Creepy doesn't even scratch the surface. Mind blown. But I think original poster has even bigger problems given her husband's shady look and the abysmal way in which mother-in-law is talking to her without any seeming consequences or reaction from her husband. NTA, but if you're not already there, you should check. Web link. Yeah, what stood out to me was the shady look, and that he claims he wasn't trying to hide anything, except how he didn't tell her anything about it. The purity ball is terrible, but what's going on with the husband? So much this. Op's husband knows something about how original poster doesn't like purity balls. It's odd that he knew about it and original poster didn't. Was mother-in-law trying to hide this info from Op? It's fair that he didn't know anything about the impact of COVID on the dance, Op's first question, but it's odd that original poster eventually got him to reveal it was the annual purity ball. He says, I thought you knew to original poster, but he avoided calling a purity ball or mentioning it's an annual event. Why? I don't get promising their virginity to their father. That's so gross. Incest much? The concept is that a girl is the property of her father until he gives her to a suitor, her husband until he dies, then her adult sons thereafter. That's no exaggeration. What the F? It's a gross concept. The girls are not expected to actually have sex with their fathers, it's a different kind of gross. It's more like, if virginity were an actual object, well, girls are too silly and dumb to take care of that object, so they give it to their fathers for safekeeping until another man comes along and is deemed good enough to take care of the girl and her object, so then dad gives possession of her and the object to him. Literally by walking her down the aisle and giving her away at her wedding. Virginity is a concept, though, not an item that can be lost or stolen like money or jewelry. So the girl promises her autonomy to her father's control until she finds a husband. It's still a disgusting concept and has a lot of problems. It's not giving it to your father, it's like your dad has it on lockdown until he finds a man worthy enough for it to be taken. They have this in some African tribes. Except the purity ring is replaced with how many cattle the man's family can provide to buy it from the father. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.